Good afternoon. It's fantastic to be with all of you here today, and it's a true honor every day for the Lieutenant Governor Brent Sanford and First Lady Catherine and myself to be able to serve all of you. And it's days like today that a person just has to be grateful to be living in this incredible state with all the people that are here that donate and give so much of their time to such a great cause as scouting. So I want to say thank you all for being here. I want to say thanks to the great group that presented the report, Camden, Cody, Chloe, Isaac, Jesse, Jacob, and more. Thank you for the report. And again, thanks to all the parents and volunteers and Scoutmasters, Cubmasters, and others that have put in the incredible work to do this. This is an honor for me. This is a third time I've had a chance to come here in 2 years to receive the report. It's always a day that we look forward to be here. As all of you know, scouting has had a big impact on our country. For 109 years, it's been instilling in young people the values and knowledge they need to become tomorrow's leaders. And it's as they say, you know, the youth today represent about 25% of our population, but they're 100% of our future. And scouting lays a strong foundation for that future. One of our state's most famous adopted sons, someone whose life was really transformed by his time in North Dakota, played a key role in promoting the growth of scouting in its lessons in citizenship and outdoor adventure, appreciation of nature, conservation and service and duty, and that, of course, would be Theodore Roosevelt. It's fitting that, you know, tomorrow is Valentine's Day, because it was on Valentine's Day in 1883 when Roosevelt went through an unimaginable tragedy that any of us would think about, where he lost his wife died after childbirth in the morning, and then later that same day his mother passed away. In his own diary, which he had been keeping, he kept religiously and always was filled with his thoughts on the day. On that day, there's just a big X on February 14th, and it said, the light has gone out of my life. And so what he did, he packed himself up and got himself out to western North Dakota and invested himself in the rugged life of a Badlands cowboy at a time that was, you know, pre-electricity, pre any kind of infrastructure, pre-roads, pre-anything. And it was really the last frontier, so I think he went as far away as he could from his New York roots to really immerse himself. And as he wrote more than any other president, 44 books, and 150,000 letters, more than any other president, more letters and documents than Jefferson. He talked about how the time there in the outdoors really transformed him and changed his life and changed his course. And I know that scouting today still does that for individuals. And while Roosevelt was no longer president when the Boy Scouts were founded in 1910, he was a passionate supporter. As a former president, he wasn't just a former president, he was one of the most famous people in the world. He was the only president ever to have won a Medal of Honor for his military service during the Spanish-American War, and with the unit, now famous Rough Riders, that sometimes we even take our name of our state from as the Rough Rider state. But he was elected as the honorary vice president of Scouts, and he's the only and first man designated as the chief scout citizen. Roosevelt said, "More and more I've grown to believe in the scouting movement. I regard it as one of the movement's most full of promise for the future here in America." He also said the scouting movement is a distinct asset to our country for the development of efficiency, virality, and good citizenship. It's essential that leaders be strong, wholesome character, have unmistakable devotion to our country, its customs and ideals, as well as in the soul and by law of citizens thereof, whose wholehearted loyalty is given to this nation and to this nation alone. So he really saw a tie between scouting and the values that helped shape what we came to know as the American century, the 1900s, where the U.S. emerged from a small country and growing country to one that became a global superpower, both not only in our economy and our military might, but a superpower in terms of the ideals that we project about freedom to the world. Roosevelt was too old to be a scout by the time the organization was founded, but he gave a lot of service to it. But after the scouting organization got going, there have been 5 modern-day presidents who were scouts: John F. Kennedy, Gerald Ford, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama. Jimmy Carter was not a scout, but was a scout master, and Gerald Ford was the first and only, so far, Eagle Scout president. And as you may have heard, there's a number of people across our state that have had an idea for over a decade, which is now coming to fruition, and that's the idea that we might, in our state, create a Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library at the Theodore Roosevelt Park. Roosevelt, in part because of his love of the outdoors and his understanding of nature, went on to form not only the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which protects millions of acres of wildlife. He also was the creator of the National Park System. Our nation has the best park system in the world, and it is there's over 60 national parks and hundreds of monuments run by the Park Service. There's only one park in the entire United States that's named after a person as opposed to after a place, and that's Theodore Roosevelt National Park. So it would be fitting to see the federal government, the state government, and the private sector, the university system, and the communities all come together to build the Presidential Library and Museum. Presidential libraries and museums are more than libraries. They're destinations that attract citizens and visitors from across the world to learn more about not just the life, but the legacy and the values that have shaped not just our nation, but are part of the character of North Dakota. Roosevelt really recognized the invigorating power of immersing oneself in nature and outdoors, and he utilized that time in the Badlands to heal his own spirit. And as he said, he transformed himself during his time there, and with that, it allowed him to transform the image of our country and later transform and shape the world. The founder of Scouting, Robert Baden-Powell, once said, "A week of camp life is worth 6 months of theoretical teaching in the meeting room." And for Scouts, the real world is the classroom. And through the merit badge system based on specific achievements, the camps, the community projects, you're constantly learning outside the traditional bricks and mortar school. And I would say in the last year, we had a chance to have the governor's task force on innovation in education. And one of the things that we see from how to improve education in our country at such a needed level, K through 12, is what does really work? What helps create learning? What's build skills? And turns out what really is measurable, it's hands-on, team-based, real-world, project-based projects is what we're trying to bring into K through 12. Guess what the merit badge system is? Hands-on, real-world, team-based projects. I mean, this is we Scouts have been doing for over 110 years what now many in education are seeing as the way to try to do. So this is thought of as an extracurricular activity, but in many ways this is what every day, all day should be for students as they're trying to learn the skills they have. And this is particularly important in a world where if we spent the last couple hundred years trying to teach kids the answers, in a world where you can look up the answer to any question, anytime, any place, on any device, having the answer isn't really the skill set that moves you ahead. Having the ability to solve problems, work together, and have the skills and the values, and to know what questions to ask to help solve those problems. Sometimes the question now is even more important than the answer. So Scouting is playing a key role in influencing how we think about education. One of the things, to paraphrase the founder, Paul, when you're learning, you have to ask, what can I give instead of what can I get? And what you're also learning is the real way to gain happiness is to offer service to others. And that's why in the report that was delivered here, it's so impressive to see through projects like the Scouting for Food projects, that in the 80,000 pounds of food raised and donated last year by Scouts in our region. 76,000 hours of community service from Scouts in our region. And this is not just 2018. This goes back, and Boy Scouts led the recycling effort for our nation when recycling wasn't even really a word. But it was during World War II. And Boy Scouts, whether it's sandbagging when we've had floods in North Dakota or helping in other emergencies, the Scouts have always been there when our state and nation have needed us. And it's interesting when we think about the great explorers of the modern age. There's 12 Americans who've had a chance to walk on the moon. 12 citizens of our planet. 11 of those were Scouts. Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon, actually radioed the Scouts National Jamboree in 1969, sending the best wishes to those Scouts from Apollo 11. For me personally, an opportunity to grow up in Scouting was important to myself and my older brother. We in the small town of Arthur, we had a troop. I think I've shared here in years past in Arthur. We were deep into Scouting when we were through Cub Scouts and junior high and Boy Scouts. My dad was involved, and one of the parents that was supporting my dad got cancer when I was in 7th grade, passed away when I was a freshman. And the troop leader that we had ended up leaving, and so our troop disbanded. My brother was a life. I was a star. We both were members of Order of the Arrow. And in the time that we had there was great, but because we lacked the leadership to keep the troop going, we didn't get a chance to have the full experience. So I just want to, again, thank all the leaders that are here that continue to give and support these troops because it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen unless you're there giving as the adults, giving back to the kids. And what a great opportunity. We had a fantastic time at Camp Wilderness. It was a very rustic in those days versus where it's evolved to today, but managed to make it through several trips to Camp Wilderness with nothing more than a bunch of mosquito bites. I didn't drown during the mile swim, which was a miracle. But it was there was a lot of great memories from there, and of course great appreciation for one of North Dakota's Rough Rider Award winners, Herman Stern, who, among the many great things he accomplished in his life, gave back a tremendous amount to the creation of Camp Wilderness. So these programs really match up with what a lot of Scouting does in terms of community-based programs, Eagle Scout programs. And if people that are future Eagle Scouts are looking for projects to do, feel free to contact our office because there are literally hundreds of Main Street projects and hundreds of ideas around ending stigma and building healthy, vibrant communities that could really fit into and may be highly impactful programs that Scouts could be imparted in. So with that, I want to just say, encourage all of you to, search online for Building Tomorrow's Leaders, search online under recoveryreinvented.com for the YES, or the Youth Ending Stigma, for ideas. But in closing, I just want to close with the gratitude that I started, which is I'm grateful to all of you. I'm grateful for the Elks Club, grateful for the Rotarians. We've got the youth Rotarians that are here. Thank you for participating in building communities as well. And again, appreciate everything that the leaders are doing, everything the Scouts are doing, and honored to be here to receive this report on behalf of the state of North Dakota. So thank you. Congratulations on another great year, and let's go Scouting.